welcome to Turtle Tracks Podcast. This is your host, Brian VanHooker, and I'm here with Lloyd Goldfine, who was the executive producer and showrunner on the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series. Lloyd, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to talk to you again. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
You too. So, there are so many fans who like the 2003 Turtles is their version. Like, that's the one they grew up on. That's their favorite. And it's such a great show. So I'm really excited to get into this with you.
It's always nice to hear that people like what you did.
Oh yeah.
We all loved what we were doing. Peter was always very fond of what we were doing, and he says it's one of his favorite versions of the Turtles ever. So yeah, it was great. It was great fun. We were proud of what we were doing at the time.
That's kind of where I wanted to start is with Peter. I mean, I'm curious how you got the job, but also like where Peter was, because I know he didn't, he was alone doing the Turtles at this point. I know he was unhappy with what had come before in the 1987 cartoon. So like, where was he? What was he looking for? What did he want? I'm curious.
Well, the story goes that Mirage was hearing pitches. I had heard through the grapevine that another studio was developing a version of the Turtles. And from what I was hearing, it was kind of like, Casey and April are in high school. And it just didn't sound, what I was hearing didn't sound like the Ninja Turtles that I knew. The Ninja Turtles I knew were the Ninja Turtles from the comics. I wasn't when the original animated show was on TV, I wasn't seeing that. I was already out of it. But I knew the Turtles from their comic book days.
Okay.
So Norman Grossfeld, who was the president of our studio, 4Kids Productions, and I had been talking about doing a full-up animated production at some point. Like, what could it be? What would be good? And Turtles would be great because it's got a built-in audience to a large extent. It'd be a really good first-time thing. So we did a pitch. We worked up a pitch. We knew the Mirage guys were, just a couple states away. And basically, we pitched them, we want to do the comic book. As much as we can get away with doing the Turtles as they were presented in the comic book for a Saturday morning audience, that's what we wanted to do. That's what we wanted to convey. That's the story we wanted to tell, with a few caveats. And they were very happy to hear that. They were not particularly enamored of the pitches they were getting, and they kind of said, "Yeah." Me and Norman went up there. We gave the pitch. It was just the two of us. We told them the story that we wanted to tell, and they were like, "Yeah."
So, I mean, did you to develop the pitch? Did you delve into the old Mirage comics? Like, what was the? Do you remember the process of the early days?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very it's a solitary thing at this point. There's not like I'm sitting in a room.
Sure.
I have a pile of comic books. I remember most of it. I knew it pretty well. And I started working out a Bible, and I started bouncing ideas off of Norman, and then I go back and write, and we built out this kind of pitch. We built out a Bible, and we said, "Read this," and then we went up there and we did our song and dance, which is part of the business. And it was not. It was very, much kind of. We see it like the comics, without the blood off camera.
Was that the only major caveat? Was the blood, or was there more that you knew?
There were a few things we wanted to. We knew that Pete was not pleased about some of the stuff, in the previous show, and we knew he wasn't in love with some of the things that had been done with the Turtles since then, and we made a pitch that we wanted to give the turtles, want to try and make their personalities more distinct than they had been portrayed in TV at the time.
Hmm.
To really try and push them out there a little bit more, so you would know them not just because they had a letter on their belt,
Sure.
but because of who they were as characters. And we also wanted to fill in some mythological or a little backstory things. Um, One of the hurdles we had to get over with Pete was he was so tired of telling stories about Shredder. He didn't want to do Shredder again, and I had to kind of try and convince Pete that I know you're sick of Shredder, but the audience that's seeing this has never heard of Shredder. This is a whole new group, a whole new crop of kids, and Shredder's such a great character that it's a shame to just toss him away because you're sick of him. So what if we kept reinventing him, and what if we kept adding pieces to him, and what if we kept making him interesting enough to you? And if we make him interesting enough to you, he'll be interesting enough for everybody. So things like that.
I'm curious what you so did you have to do several meetings with Pete? Did you before it was greenlit, or was it pretty much then that the ball started rolling?
It pretty much was then. The way it would work is, we go back to New York. I would do a bunch of writing. I'd get I basically have to get the whole chunk of this is what the season's going to be.
Okay.
Here's 26 stories that we're going to have, and I'd work that out. And then I'd go up and I'd pitch it to Pete. We'd spend like 2 days up there talking stories and going around on segways and just chilling and talking stories and turtles, and some stuff he liked and a few things he didn't, but mostly he was on board with almost everything. He was very easy to work with. And then I'd go back, and then we'd start expanding our team and our designers, and we start to make the stuff visual. And then we just be sending stuff up to him for approvals, every day.
I would say, how much was he involved in? Like, was he reading scripts? Was he like, and what, like, how involved would he be on any given episode?
He was involved in everything. I mean, he looked at everything. He gave notes on everything. He looked at all the major designs. If we had a big new character and stuff, we sent it to him, and he was, again, like I say, mostly pleased. And any notes that he had, I think 99% of Pete's notes were easy to implement. When it came to the writing stuff, a lot of his notes were grammatical. So yeah, it was not a tough deal. It was a couple of times where we came to blows, but other most of the time it was a really good collaboration.
The kind of storytelling you did in that show was really ambitious in how much it trusted the audience to keep up. So you have these 5 episodes, like sometimes 3, sometimes 5 episode story arcs, which like wasn't being done. Maybe X-Men did it. Besides that, there weren't a lot of shows that were not episodic, maybe the occasional 2-parter, but like there was a lot of trust in the audience. I'm curious why that was that was important for you to do.
Well, the thing about multi-part storytelling, we had done my show for 4 kids before that was adapting Yu-Gi-Oh!
Okay.
And the Yu-Gi-Oh! Stories never end. It's like a 20-part story of 2 guys throwing down cards.
Okay.
And the ratings on this thing were going through the roof. And it was proving, if nothing else, it was proving that kids liked and were interested in following the serialized storytelling.
Sure.
They rushed back the next day to find out what was going to happen in this card game, so that they could follow a serialized story, and they were interested in that kind of experience. On the other hand, networks and programmers hate that because
Right.
it makes their life a living hell when they're trying to schedule these things, especially as they go into reruns and syndication and stuff, because they can't just do anything. Now they have four episodes they have to run as a block, or 5 episodes, or whatever it is, and they don't have the flexibility that they want to have. So that's why it's not done a lot. But we knew kids would like it and could follow it, and we had these longer kind of stories we wanted to tell, in much the way the comics tell a serialized story. So we just went for it. We had the ability. We were also, in addition to being the studio, in addition to having the creator sitting right there doing it with us, we were also the network putting it on the air for the most part. So we owned the time. We owned the Fox box time on Saturday mornings. That programming block where we were running shows.
Yeah.
We were the arbiters of what goes on and all that kind of stuff. We owned it. We owned the time on the Fox box, and we also owned the time on whatever Kids WB, whatever we turned that into. I forgot. So we had a lot of programming time, so we didn't have to really worry too much about what somebody else thought or wanted.
I didn't know that. So like I've interviewed a few people. I've interviewed Margaret Lash a few times
Yeah.
about X-Men and about the Tick and
Mhm.
all the process that went that through. So was Fox like renting the space out by then? Because this is like
Yeah.
like
This was like towards the end of their heyday, where
right. Okay.
it's diminishing returns, and it's the end of Saturday morning, pretty much.
Yeah.
Cable is ascendant, and kids aren't necessarily all heading to Saturday morning for their animation, because they can watch it any day of the week everywhere else.
Oh.
But they're coming to our Saturday morning for Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and Turtles. It's working. When One Piece and whatever else, Sonic, Kirby. We had a few good shows, and it was still pulling kids, and we were programming those blocks of time on the weekends.
Oh, it's so interesting. I didn't know that. That's such so really you didn't have to deal with the networks being like you can't do serialized storytelling.
Not too much. No, no.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. We
Oh,
did
okay. So
incredible
that makes so
runs.
much sense to me now. Why you had the freedom to do like they said, there's these huge arcs, not just. I mean, then the 5-part arcs would then go into season arcs and like things. There's such a
Yeah,
depth of storytelling
yeah.
that I mean it was
Yes,
incredibly rare.
you see what happens when there's no network executives.
Go figure. I thought they made it all work. You know, I'm curious. When this, you're looking at the original Mirage comics. What was the I don't know, because Shredder is such an inconsequential character. Not inconsequential, but less
He,
consequential in
he's
the.
over. He's over and done. Yeah,
Yeah, very quickly. So, like,
yeah.
I'm curious when you saw this, like, well, okay, for Shredder's story specifically, like, seeing that, how to expand that and make that into a sustainable villain.
Right. Well, so I knew from my conversations with Pete, that if we were to have Shredder play a larger role in the show, it couldn't just be the scene that from the comics, and then he's defeated and that's it. So we approached it a bunch of ways. One of the things was to introduce him slowly, and to not know that he's the Shredder. He's introduced as Orokusaki, and you learn about him in his civilian identity first for many, I think it's 11 episodes. Like,
Oh,
you don't,
wow. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't come in. And so we're building his legend slowly. And then we also learn that he has more of a history, more of a family, more of a connection, all these other different ways to come at him, to build him up and to tell more than just the one story about him. And then Pete, Pete's a huge science fiction fan. And I mean, in the Turtles canon, he loves the Utroms and he loves, the Fugitoid, and he loves all that stuff. And so we started to build that out. And he was all for this. What if the Shredder is, spoiler, a Utrom? And we went, yeah, who's going to see that come? That's crazy. That's insane. And we worked this whole giant storyline out to tell it.
Do you remember
And
who came up with that idea? Was it you or Peter?
it was certainly a discussion with me and Pete. I won't,
Okay.
yeah, that's
It just
fine.
that was I mean like I love the show, but that is like maybe the singular boldest move and change to the canon on the show, and it kind of shaped it in so many ways. It's just such an
Yeah.
interesting thing, and especially for Pete to be into it and to approve it when sometimes he seemed to want to keep things closer to the comics. It's such a departure and such a great bold move that it really
I'll tell you that he loved that idea.
so
He
interesting.
he was crazy for that, and he was crazy. He couldn't wait to reveal it, and we just kept like, no, not yet, not yet, not yet. He just couldn't wait to see everybody's head explode.
What was it in
when,
season two? It wasn't shown until season two, right?
yeah, I think it's the end. I think it's the end of season two.
It's such like, and when did you know?
Oh, we knew way before that. When does he get his he
That's
gets
the end of season
decapitated? When he
one.
gets decapitated, we knew what, yeah, we knew early.
Did you know before the show started or no?
Yes, it's in the Bible that he is a neutron.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess did you know that you'd have more than one season at that point, or you just figured you hope for the best and
I mean, you don't know anything, but
sure.
we figured we would. We had so much control,
Nice.
and I don't know that I don't. We never thought we'd have 7 seasons, but we knew we'd have, a few.
Sure.
Three. We were hoping for three. And we knew we would get to tell that story at least.
Because that move is such a bold, crazy, fun. Like
It's
I mean,
crazy. No,
that
it's crazy.
Shredder, it's such a distinct version. I mean, like, is there anything to say about like I don't know, getting into the whole lore of him and him being hundreds of years old and all that? Like, do you remember how that coming about?
Well, yeah, because we tried to come up with this whole crazy thing about him. Like, why does he? What is his connection to martial arts, and how long has he been on the planet? And what is his? What are his Japanese roots? And why does he act like a feudal lord? And why does he have a clan? And it kind of led us, we kept backing up to this crazy story of him crashing on Earth and learning these things, uh, and some of it got even crazier with the demon. There's a demon version of the Shredder spirit thing, and some of it I don't even remember actually. But yeah, I mean, yeah, we just went big with it.
The I mean the character design of Trell and all that. Like, there's just such a again, I can't say enough good stuff about that move, which was such a bold departure, and that people like I said, not only Peter surprisingly embraced, but like the fans did too. Like it was such a different Shredder, and yeah, again, that's just like such a singular, interesting change the show did, and it kind of shaped the whole thing, which is cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, we certainly had fun with it, and we hope people would uh, not hate us for it.
Did you get any hate for it?
You know, uh, very early on, I learned not to go on the boards, so I don't know
Smart.
what really happened.
Sure.
But
Smart
but
move.
I've heard good and bad. What,
You know,
I ever tell you my very early story about going on the boards?
no, please. I'm guessing these are the Technodrome forums, which I was on back in the.
Technodrome. So very,
Sure.
very early on, Pete says to me, "You got to go on this Technodrome and see what they're saying. People are loving it." So I said, "Okay." So I went. So I went on and I made my name, and my name was Mortu, which was a character that was going to be coming. And I went in and I'm reading the comments, and they're really good comments. And it's like, oh, they're liking it. They're liking it. But I noticed that any episode that didn't specifically have to do with Shredder, they were they were filler episode, the filler episode,
Yeah,
and
that's yeah.
we were working so hard, and
Yeah.
so I said, "Hey guys, I I I know that Shredder's not in these episodes, but are they? I don't think it's fair to call them filler episodes." And as soon as I press send, my phone rings, and it's one of our writers, Marty Eisenberg's, calling me from LA, and he says, "Are you bored too?" And that was it. And then I didn't go on anymore.
Oh, I love that. I was. This is how early I joined that stuff. Although I like any fandom has its toxicity. I was Donatello, no number or anything afterwards. I was simply Donatello on those boards. Like that's how early I was in that fandom.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. That's so fun because I remember the constant complaints about like, and there was nothing. It was never was this episode is bad. It's just
Mhm.
not that. Hence, it's less.
Yeah.
And like Nano was a fantastic episode. That's not filler. That's you were like the amount of cool stuff that came out of it. Like yeah,
It's fine. I mean, it's not your cup of tea. That's fine. But it's like, we're working. We killed ourselves. We killed
and
ourselves.
like you guys are doing like
Stock me, the Mousers, whatever.
doing 5 episode long story arcs. The idea that it wasn't just 24 episodes continuously doing the same thing is very
Right.
cool.
Right. And I was defensive of the crew and everyone's work. And I was like, oh, I have to shut up and get out of there.
That's, I'd love to just briefly go over each turtle and I don't know what your designs were going in. Like, what did you want to do with Leonardo, for example?
Um, I wanted so a character like Leonardo is hard, and yet kind of like my favorite
Okay.
in a lot of ways. And he's not usually anybody's favorite. I mean, Mikey's always everybody's favorite. Sometimes the other three usually are the favorites.
Sure.
But I like Leo because of his love for those guys and because of his dedication to them and what he would do to protect his brothers. It's so like outsized, that responsibility that he feels. I love that about him. And he's a character like Cyclops or Superman. He does the right thing for the right reasons because he really believes all that stuff. Captain America, and those characters are hard to make cool or good, or because they can be boring and they could be sticks in the mud. So I wanted to kind of humanize him and kind of show other sides from him, show his love for his brothers, but also show why what he believes and how he goes about things is so noble and cool. So that was what we wanted to do with Leo. Donnie was a little easier because he's got his whole tech thing. We just wanted to turn it up a couple notches, and also show that he's a good martial artist in his own right. It's really hard because I say Leo's my favorite, but they're all. They really do feel like your family when you're doing something like this for so long, and you're in there with.
Sure.
they do feel like your friends, your family. So you become very fond of them, of all of them. Um,
How
you
about
know, so when you do things like, God
sure?
forbid, one of them gets injured or one of them, uh, you know, uh, you really feel it. While it's just crazy. You feel it while you're writing it. It's just nuts. Raph is a hothead, and you understand why he's doing what he's doing, but he's often doing the wrong thing, and he needs extra. He needs extra help. He needs extra help from you. He needs extra help from all of us. And so that was kind of, we let him have his outbursts and we let him have um, his tantrums, uh, but we never gave him an ultimatum. We always let him know, you're still part of the family. We still love you.
Hmm.
Um, and then Mikey's a maniac. The thing with Mikey, we kind of tried to show a little bit that he had an insecure side, and
Hmm.
he needed affirmations from the other guys and Splinter that yes, he actually is a good or great martial artist. Yes, he does have skills and he does have talent, and he's not just the goofball. So we kind of like, he wasn't, he really uh, needed Leo's support to say, "I've got you, buddy. Or I'll help you." There was the one with the battle nexus, and
Yeah.
it's like Leo's belief in Mikey kind of helps Mikey over the hump of that contest, stuff like that. Anyway,
You guys kind of introduced the idea that Michelangelo was maybe the best, like kind of most gifted athlete naturally.
he doesn't think about it. He
Yeah,
naturally
which is interesting.
that's right. Whereas, like, whatever Leo does out of discipline and and study and practice, whatever Raph accomplishes out of sheer berserker anger,
Sure.
Mikey does, just effortlessly, because he doesn't think about it. He's just natural. Yeah.
Anything to say about April and Casey? I mean, they're very much a truthful adaptation of the comics. I'm curious what went into them too.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun. Sometimes it was hard to keep them involved, and you could
Hmm.
see that in the comic as well as in the show, and depending what was going on. But they were again, they were truly part of the family. Um, um, April, for a while, we were like, well, if she's not a reporter, what is she going to do?
Sure. Yeah,
how,
that's
is,
a
how
good
is she
point.
going to be involved?
Was
But
that did you guys rule out say she can't be a reporter or
it just didn't make much sense, and we didn't really want Lois Lane, and we didn't want to make her, a girl who needs to get rescued every 5 minutes, and I really liked the idea because in the beginning of the show, the turtles were really um, not allowed to participate in the world. They couldn't be in the world. They couldn't be seen. It was a real danger. It was a real, we have to stay to the shadows. And so to have April as their passport into the human world, or agent in the human world, that really became an important role and something she could and really contribute, and there was a million things she could do in that role that were valid and helpful and led to stories. And so that's what she did. And then, Casey's a giant goofball.
sure?
And I think we had a problem with him as a vigilante. I know we did. I know when we finished. I know for me anyway. When we finished the uh, the version of his vigilante episode, which is like right out of the comic, just it was very violent. And it just didn't sit right. It just didn't feel right. It's like him as a uh, as an auxiliary player to the Turtles, fine, but him kind of beating on people, it's just a little too disturbed
The
for us.
original, I don't know if you know this, the original origin story for Casey Jones was he's just a guy who watched too many movies. So he's legitimately a psychopath in the
No, right, no, right, and you
yeah,
could feel it. You could feel it in this thing, and
yeah,
we kind of had to steer it so it wasn't. I mean, how can April love a guy who's insane, or and how could our heroes embrace a guy who
sure.
gets off on hurting people? It just had to be massaged more. So we slowly kind of steered him back into, I'm a nice guy.
Well, he was lovable in that show. I mean, he was also like you gave him a story, you gave him an origin story that made you care about him, right? As opposed to he's just a psycho in a mask. So like you really did a lot to evolve the character, and I think although I think the show in many ways has influenced many incarnations since. That's a notable one is that Casey since then has not been, in the original cartoon, in the original comics, he's very much like he's like Dirty Harry with a hockey stick. He's nuts. So
Yeah,
you made him something else.
he's poor Batman.
Look what it is. I mean, I have a theory, and I don't know if it's true. I have a theory that most versions of Casey Jones are probably homeless. Like he's
Yeah,
just
right. No, it's exactly what it is. Right.
he's just sort
He's a
of
squatter. He's a squatter
yeah.
with some extra hockey equipment.
Like in the first movie, like I don't know where he live. He doesn't live anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I'd love to talk a little bit about the visual of this show, like what went into it. I mean, I'm curious how you decided how the turtles are going to look.
Yeah, well, so once we kind of started in earnest designing stuff, we filled out our our studio, and it quickly we had hired some art directors and a director for the series and a bunch of people, and we were cranking out designs, but there was no overall look.
Interesting.
So yeah, this is a nice looking rat person, and here's a cute April maybe. They don't live together. They don't look like they're in the same world. What is the world? What is the look of this thing going to be? And no matter what references I gave, and there are quite a few, and no matter how much I tried, we couldn't get a kind of cohesive thing going. And I just realized that um, we needed somebody else on the crew. We needed a different director. We needed somebody who was going to make this happen. So that was a big kind of turning point. So we were lucky. We got Chuck. Chuck came in, sat with me. He shared my office with me for the first week or so, and I'm going to say within the first 3 hours, we had the turtles. Perfect. The turtles. These are our turtles. This is what we want them to look like. And he kind of saved us because we were really behind schedule at this point. So Chuck was a great artist and a great designer, and I think he nailed our turtles, and that just got us going. And then we were able to now make everyone else look like they live in this world with these turtles. And we took the best of some of the other design work, we brought it more in line with this, and we were off to the races.
What were the influence? I always thought it looked a little bit like Dooney's artwork, but
Well, it was, I mean, I don't want to say
was there any specific? I wasn't sure there was a
it
specific.
wasn't any specific, but a lot of it was from the comic stuff. I mean, we jumped off a lot of the different comic stuff. I love Dooney stuff.
Was there? I mean, was there a list of like either from Peter or for yourselves don'ts in terms of like don't do what this cartoon, the original cartoon did? Like we couldn't do this or we don't want to do this or anything like that. Was there no's or was it just you didn't need to do that?
I don't think so. I think the only no was like no female turtles. He didn't want to have it be a mutant fest.
Oh, sure, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
That was a thing that was a Pete bugaboo, and I think we mostly kept to that, unless we had a particular.
Up
Uh,
until Turtles Forever, you guys were pretty strict on. Like, you guys didn't really.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Was
like
that?
and then,
I mean, how did you find that restricting? Because you think like the mutagen is kind of the thing that is sort of the centerpiece of the universe in a way. Did you find that like, oh man, I would love to have a mutant anything or no?
didn't we had so many stories we wanted to do. I mean, it never really stopped us. Yeah, I
Sure,
mean, it wasn't really a thing. And then when we wanted to tell something like, say, Turtles Forever, we did it, and he was fine with that.
sure.
So yeah, it wasn't a particular problem. And then you look like what they did, with the latest Turtles, and it was great.
Oh yeah,
Where
absolutely.
everything's a mutation.
I mean, you guys also had a lot of access to like space and stuff, so you can have plenty of freedom in that way, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, again, like I said, Pete loves science fiction stuff.
Sure. The was there a the original Mirage run is not very long. If you take out all the anthology episodes or issues, there's not the source
Yeah.
material is less than people might think. I'm curious, did you reach a point where you kind of ran out? Was that freeing? Was it scary? What was when you didn't have any more to draw from that?
No, because it wasn't.
It wasn't a direct. I'm just curious.
Yeah, yeah, no, it wasn't like we were saying, oh, we only have 20 some odd issues, and then what are we going to do? And we weren't really parceling them out
Oh yeah.
preciously.
No.
No, it was like we have these great things, and this gives you an idea of what a turtle story is, and we use them where we see fit. But we felt perfectly free to just do anything.
Rarely was it 1-to-1. I mean, I think the only episode that really comes
Yeah,
to mind is Donatello one,
yeah,
which was
yeah.
like, I mean, do you remember how that came in? Like, let's just do pretty much exactly this. It was kind of cool.
Uh, that was, it's such a self-contained story,
Sure. Yeah.
so it worked. But I mean, the Kirby episode is just completely bizarre, but it's great.
Yeah.
Um, um, and then a few of them got a little spin to them. The the one with the racers,
Yeah. Sure.
Pete's Racers thing. Um, but yeah, yeah, mostly, like I said, it was wide open. We were allowed to do anything. We did a lot of Usagi stories, because Stan was very open and you know easy to work with. He was just happy to have Usagi in the show, and we were happy to have Usagi as a part of the world. So yeah, we could do whatever we wanted.
Are there any favorite episodes that you wanted to highlight? They could be filler ones if you want. That's fine.
I like all the filler episodes. No, I mean, I like the Same as It Never Was a
Oh yeah,
lot,
that was great.
and I like Turtles Forever a lot, of course. That was a treat. For us to be allowed to do that as our last um, as our last hurrah, and as a put a stamp on the 25th anniversary of the Turtles while they were turning the lights and unplugging our edit machines. That was a big treat.
I mean, can you talk a little bit about? I don't want to keep you too long. Can you talk a
Oh,
little bit?
I got some.
Like, because I mean, you guys went through. I mean, after season 4, there was the Ninja Tribunal. Then
Yep.
there was Fast Forward, and then back to the sewers. Can you talk a little bit about what those changes were, and then how that eventually led to Turtles Forever?
Yeah. So um, we basically were left to our own devices for a good long time.
Okay.
But then um, the toy licensing people started to say, we really need something else. We need something new. We need something different.
Hmm.
And we'd never been, bothered before. They would just make whatever we were making. So we said, yeah, we're willing to work with you guys. What do you want? And they didn't know what they wanted. So we pitched all these different ideas, just the most ridiculous things you could think of. And one story they seized on was the turtles going to Japan to fight this mystic battle, which I was very surprised that that's what they decided to go with. But I think they saw a way to make different turtles, and that's really what they were looking for. The way you think about all the old turtle lines. So I think
Okay.
right. I think they saw turtles with tattoos and markings, and they could. So we did that, and suddenly it was like that was the lost season.
Yeah, I was
You
just saying
know,
that ended up being because that didn't air. So you made for the people filling in people in the audience. You made season 4, then 5 didn't air for a long time, and then you aired right to 6, which was fast forward. How come that season ended up being discarded?
reasons that were never made clear. They decided that's not what they want to do, and they want to do science fiction turtles. I was
So
like,
so Playmates had that much control where they could tell you to take the whole season down.
I don't.
I always
I,
figured it was a Fox thing or WB by that point, I guess.
again, like I said, we were the network, so they don't really.
Right.
There wasn't really anybody. I don't know what the business reasons were. Well, all I know is, we were making, we were killing ourselves making these shows. And then I said, yeah, well, we don't want that. We want science fiction turtles. So then we did Fast Forward.
Sure.
Um, and after like a season and a half of that, they said, yeah, no, that's not what we want. We want the turtles the way they were before we made you change anything. So then we did Back to the Sewer. But then they ran the lost season, right? I don't
Yeah,
remember
they
which.
eventually aired it, and it was really it was a DVD. It was I feel like it was even though they aired it too, it was more
They
DVD.
did, yeah, they did air it. They did air it.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So and then when we were back home, back to the sewer, um, and a little less dark, I
But the
think.
tonal changes too, especially with Fast Forward and then Back to the Sewer, was lighter.
Yeah, yeah.
How did you
So
feel about that?
you know, I, I was busy doing other things. My focus wasn't only on turtles at that point.
Yeah.
I was working on 3 series at a time now, and so I understood why they thought they needed to do that, but I didn't believe in it,
Okay.
you know. Um, but I don't, and I'd say ultimately it didn't prove successful for them.
Sure.
Those changes. Now, I don't know if it would have done better or worse. I don't know, but I think some of those shows are still good. I like some of those stories a lot.
Yeah. I thought
Um,
you did really interesting stuff with Bishop, turning him into
oh
a
yeah,
like to take that character and make him into like you kept waiting for the turn, but it never came, which I loved. That was good. Like because it would have been so. Oh yeah, he's really bad. No, he was really trying, which was so interesting.
yeah, and poor Stockman, poor Stockman. Um, but he kind of gets saved, maybe, maybe at the end. I don't know, not sure. Yeah. So and then, like I said, so and so we are going through these permutations of the show, and really, I mean, we developed so many different versions of the turtles. This
I
is
know there's that
crazy,
one version where like they were all teamed up with their baby selves, right?
and I think that would have been a great show.
I
That
think so
would,
too. Like I'm gonna show you. Like, I have like the
you
big
know,
like what's the like I would have loved
ah, it would have been so funny.
it.
Uh, but having to keep making new versions of them every season, and like, what are we doing? So to have the Turtles Forever be the final hurrah, that was very satisfying.
It wasn't intended to be the final though, right? It just ended up that right, or was it like you didn't know, right?
We it we kind of
Okay.
knew. We
Right.
didn't know, but kind of knew.
Was there any nervousness like let's do Turtles Forever? Like let's bring in the turtles that we know Pete doesn't like. Was there any concern there?
No, I had been trying. I'd been pitching, a Turtles Meet the Turtles from forever,
Oh,
and
really? Okay, cool, cool, cool.
there was no way to do it. First, there were just absolutely no way to do it, and then there's absolutely no way to do it, but maybe, and then there was maybe there's a way to do it, and then let's do it. And there were other things that couldn't happen. We couldn't get the music, all the things the fans bitch about. We couldn't get the music, we couldn't get the voices, we couldn't whatever. But so we made the best of it. Um, and yeah, and we did it. And to be able to bring the actual comics to life, that was really,
Yeah.
really, really fun. Um, and everybody went crazy doing that. Yeah.
That whole thing, I mean, Turtles Forever is still like in the fandom just so beloved. It's such a just a great finale. It's a great standalone thing. It's just all of it comes together and such, and it felt like tonally it shifted the turtles back a little bit to a little bit more serious, like where they were in the beginning of the series. For your turtles, like it was such a great way to wrap it all up, and just the fact that it was the 25th only seemed like it was kind of like the icing on the cake for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't believe it's the 40th now. It's like, what?
Yeah.
And the only thing about Turtles Forever that I feel bad about is that so many people felt like we crapped on the original Turtles,
Oh, I mean,
and that was never what we were intending to do in any way. But I mean, I can understand it. Why? Why? I actually don't, but I do. But
I
I don't.
don't. I'll tell you this. I don't. I love the original Turtles. That's the thing I grew up on. It's my. I,
Right.
I love 2003. The original Turtles is my favorite. I love that goofy shit. I love the comedy. There's a lot of goofy, weird stuff that happens in that show.
Mhm.
So to me, I thought it nailed it. It really did. It then like it really, and then the fact that even the 2003 turtles are considered soft by the standards of the Mirage turtles.
Right. Right.
I think that you guys hit the nail on the head. I think I always thought that I've heard that criticism too, and I don't agree with it. I think that I love the original show. It is goofy as hell, and I
Yeah.
think
I just we were never trying to say that. Is all. Is
sure.
all. Let the record show.
No,
We
I
were.
always think there's like a affectionate like ribbing. That's how I took it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like waking up in the mirror world. I mean, for them, I think that they were in a nightmare. That's like, what the hell is going on? But not that they were any less of turtles than any when they kicked ass. They were great.
I mean,
Oh,
I would argue that like you even highlighted the fact that the original Donatello is impossibly smart by any standards of the reality you made. Right? He can make a stick that makes a portal to another dimension. Like this, like it makes no sense at
makes
all.
no sense. Right. Right.
He's like a genius beyond anything your reality could have contemplated.
Yeah. Yeah.
He just
Anyway.
does it. It just
Right.
magically falls together, and it was great. And then like you brought back Trell one last time. Oh, and can I tell you something? I love that arguably Bebop and Rocksteady saved the multiverse. God damn, I love that. I love those characters. It's such a funny move that they just I just it was a stroke of genius. I love that.
Just perfect. It's just perfect for them to
Yeah.
destroy Shredder.
This was I really appreciate talking. This was really wonderful. Is there anything else you want to say about I don't know any part of this? Because this was great. Thank you. I appreciate this.
That's all I got off the top of my head. But if anything occurs to you, just give me a shout.
Cool. I usually ask people who their favorite turtle was. I know you said it was Leonardo. Can you tell me why Leo was the one that you most connected to?
I like Leo. I think his heart's really in the right. He just knows. what he's doing and why he's doing it. And I think all the other guys aren't necessarily that clear all the time, because I think that's a hard thing to be. I think that's a hard thing to do and to know and to act on and to live that way. But he does it and he's at peace with it. And I think that's inspiring. So,
And I
Leo.
think is like, I mean, all the takes in the Turtles were fantastic, but that Leonardo was, to me, something special. It was like the best version of the character, just interesting, and the kind of like, he's the Cyclops, but he's not the prick that gets on your nerves, right? Like he really is like, that Leonardo is something special. And you guys did really cool things with him, like where he kind of maybe flirted with the Foot Clan a little bit, and the stuff with Karai, like there was all, but none of it ever felt like you were pushing the bounds of who he was. It just felt like really exploring this character, and I think that Leonardo is something special. He really is great.
Yeah. I think we had so much fun with all the characters. We got to do all this great stuff with Splinter.
Yeah.
Amata
Yoshi being a guardian, all that stuff was great.
Yeah, we had so much fun with it. Yeah, we weren't done, but we had to put our crayons down.
I mean, but what a great thing to end on. Like, you can't go like that. Like I said, Turtles Forever is still so loved in the fandom, and it's like, I think, who was I talking to? But anyway, if somebody was working.
Oh, you were talking to me.
Somebody was saying like there was a potential other season. I was like, no, it ended exactly where it needed to. That you don't want beyond that, because it's just like, it was such a perfect close to the Turtles and to that. It was just, anyway, lovely. It was a perfect ending. So, well, again, thank you for your time. This was really nice to talk to you, and I'm
good to see you again, Brian. Yep. All right. Cheers. Bye.
Chain reaction, living underground, ninjutsu action, it's a shell of a town. Turtles count it off, we fight the code of the martial arts. Never fight unless someone else starts. Always stick together no matter what. If all else fails, then it's time to keep on. There's no one better.
Watch out for Shredder.